You know, we talk often on this program about marriage and divorce and child custody and child support and vagina-money. And whether there is anything in it for a guy to get married, which I say there is no benefit for a man to get married. I've said this over and over. And that doesn't mean there aren't benefits for anybody to get married. I do think women get certain benefits, most notably a large array of cash and prizes upon departure, some lovely parting gifts, as they used to call them on the daytime game shows. Lovely parting gifts, yes. But also marriage does have benefits for children. I do think that children need a male influence around. They need to know who their dad is, and they need to have him around. I do believe that. But for a man, there's nothing to gain by being married. There's nothing a man can get through marriage that he can't get without being married. Sex, children, love, living together. These are all things you used to need a marriage license to do, but not anymore. You don't. And I've given several reasons, specific reasons not to get married. Among them, even if you impregnate somebody, all you'll ever have to pay is child support if you split up, not vagina-money. And you'd have to know the difference between vagina-money and child support. Child support is the right of a child. It is specifically for the upbringing of a child. And it is non-negotiable. Because in theory, and of course we all know this is baloney, in theory that money is for the child and the child only. And so no woman can sign away a child's rights to get that money. Now, we all know mom gets the money herself and then she spends it any way she pleases and never has to show any paper proof that she spent the money on the kid, ever. Doesn't have to do it. Doesn't have to do it. Vagina-money is different. Vagina-money is just a cash bonus for having used a woman's vagina for a period of time. It's an annuity. It's a payment for past services. If you don't get married, you don't have to pay it, ever. Ever. At all. So if you impregnate somebody, don't marry them. That's not the right thing to do. It's the wrong thing to do for you as a man. Because if you get married and you split, chances are you'll have to pay vagina-money and child support. If you don't get married and you have a child together, all you have to pay is child support. By the way, take out the child. If you live with somebody and split up, you don't have to pay them anything. There isn't even community property. There's no property rights at all. She can't lay claim to your pension. She can't lay claim to half of what you earned during the period of time you were together. She can't lay claim to anything. She gets zero. If she marries you, if she gets you to sign on the dotted line, you will have to pay. If you break up and you make more than she does, you might have to pay vagina-money. If you break up, she also will be able to lay claim to community property in most states in the United States. That means half of everything you earn during the time you're together goes to her. Also half of your property, half of your house, half of your condo, half of your company, half of your law practice or medical practice. If you don't get married, you don't have to risk all of that. And here's a new wrinkle in my battle against men getting married. We've read many of these stories about men who do a DNA test, as I always recommend, and they find out the child is not theirs. In some states, if you are married and you take a DNA test and you prove you're not the father, guess what? They still have laws like the Middle Ages. You are still assumed to be the father because you are the husband. If a woman gives birth and you're married to her, you are assumed to be the father. And you could very well have a situation Oh, and by the way, the reason I'm telling you about this theoretical situation is it actually happened. It was in the news in the last couple of weeks. I can't remember what state, but it was a story that I had in my mailbox. There was a man married to a woman. The woman has a baby. He finds out by doing a DNA test that he is not the father. But guess what? He confronts her about it, and she leaves him and moves in with the father of the baby. But because the two of them were married, he is presumed to be the father of the bastard child and is forced to pay child support, which is paid to this bitch and the guy she was screwing around with. They're getting a child support check from the poor schmuck who was deceived. Do you understand what I'm saying? That could be you. If you are married, in many states, you are presumed to be the father of whatever comes out of that womb. So if she gets knocked up by the pool boy or somebody at work or whatever, it very well could come out that they say, well, we don't care what the DNA test says. You are the husband and therefore the father. And imagine if your wife moved in with the guy she's been screwing around on you with and the baby, and then you have to send a check to them every month. That is happening. This is not theoretical. It's happening in the real world. And it is still another reason for men not to get married. We have DNA evidence. Once you know someone is not the father, they shouldn't have to pay a penny. But if the laws are not going to change, men are going to have to vote with their feet. When I say vote with your feet, I mean walk out on getting married. Walk out on the idea of marriage. Marriage is a setup. It is set up so women get a little golden parachute or an annuity, and men end up paying and paying and paying. Am I wrong? Adam, on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hey, how are you today, sir?
Great.
Good. I want to just first say thank you very much for looking out for all the guys out here. I want to speak for everybody in Arizona. Thank you very much for looking out for us.
Absolutely.
Shoot into the game.
That's my gig.
I got a comment for you now, Tom.
Okay.
As far as marriage goes, you know, these people got it all wrong. If you guys are in love, be together, stay in love. That's all you need to be in a working relationship. It's a two-way street. All you need to do is stay in love. You don't need any legal documentation because is that love, Tom?
No, of course it's not. It's a contract. It's a business deal.
Exactly, and that's my whole point to all you young guys out there. Listen to this man. He knows what he's talking about. He doesn't want to hurt us. You know what I mean? We got to stick together, Tom. And, you know, thank you for letting me on your show. And I'm down for student game.
Well, I'm losing you there, Adam, but I thank you for that. Let me say hello to Emma. Emma is calling from Portland, Oregon. Home of the other white meat on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hi, Tom.
Hi.
I was calling to let you know that you inspired me in one of my college classes to write a paper on whether there were any benefits to men of getting married, because you got me thinking about it. And I was like, what are the benefits to a man who doesn't want to have children, who's financially stable? You know, why would he want to get married? And there were some studies out there that because in our culture marriage is expected and it is what people tend to think people should do, that like in the workplace, married men tend to get some benefits from their employers. You know, the single guys are kind of frowned upon and they might not get the good hours or the promotions because the married guys are seen as more stable. But, you know, that's kind of all not that great of a financial benefit. And I know you would probably say that the risk is greater than whatever that reward might be.
That's right. You have to look at the risk versus reward.
Yeah, and so the only thing I could really think of, because I'm, you know, the exception to the rule. My husband and I are really happily married, but we don't want kids. And I think that kind of changes everything. But I know that there is, like, when you get married, there's just that extra something that you don't get from cohabitating. It's like that, if you really believe in marriage, and when you get married, if you're the type of person that says, when I get married, this is forever. You know, I'm going to be with this person forever. There's something about that that gives you a sense of stability and a... Yeah,
but it's a false sense of stability. Because getting divorced is very easy. And holds no social stigma.
I know, it's really, times are definitely changing, but it just seems like still, I think it's things are changing, but I think still today, because it is culturally expected, and it is what people...
I don't agree with that. 51% of all women now are unmarried. First time in history.
Yeah, and I have to say, before I got married really young and did wind up getting divorced, even though I believe in marriage, and didn't think I'd get remarried because I didn't want to have children, and I thought, well, there's no reason for me to get married. I'm financially stable on my own and don't want kids, so I had never planned on getting married again until I met my husband, and then we fell in love, and he wanted to get married, and I didn't object to it because, you know, there was no risk really for me because we're both pretty equally financially. But I don't know. There's just something about having that partner in life that.
Yeah, but you already failed at it once.
I know, but you know.
So again, no. Take it from a 4-time loser. It doesn't.
I know, and I know the statistics actually say that second marriages have a higher divorce rate, and then have an even higher divorce rate.
That's right.
I know the stats, but, you know, there are, like you always say, there are exceptions to the rule.
Well, but again, as I say, we saw the story the last couple of weeks of the guy who survived a fall from 16 stories. Ugh. So how about you jump off a 16-story window? Because, you know, some people do live.
Well, I already did. I got married. I jumped off the 16.
No, that's my point. It's like, it's the fact that some marriages succeed is not a good enough reason for getting married.
I know. It's such an intangible. I knew I was going to, when I called, I'm going to have such a hard time trying to get my measly little point across, and it's just an emotional thing. And I think, you know, logically you can look at it and go, when I was younger, I thought, I'm never going to get married because people can't be faithful. Why put yourself in? I'm just going to have an open relationship, and my guy can go off and do whatever he wants, and why would I care as long as I'm the primary person? And then that was when I was really, really young. And then you get into a relationship and your emotions get involved, and emotions just aren't logical. I'm a pretty logical, especially for a woman, I'm very logical. But when you get your emotions in there, it's just like you can say, you know, this is how it is and this is how it should be, but we're humans. And
our contracts are pretty cut and dried. And getting married is signing a contract, a legally binding contract.
Yeah, but when you go through the ceremony, that's not the contract part of it. That's more of the...
Yeah, but again, that's there to deceive you from what marriage really is.
Yeah.
And what marriage really is, it's a contract. And it is a contract very much like forming a corporation with the state where you live. You know, when you get married, have you ever noticed you don't get the marriage certificate right away? They send it to you?
Yeah.
That is because the person who marries you mails the marriage certificate to the state, and the Secretary of State puts an imprint with a raised seal on it, which is the exact same thing your state does when you form a corporation.
Yeah.
So what you have done is you have formed a corporation with two partners who each own 50% of the corporation. That's what marriage really is. And you have all this folklore and all this ritual to distract you from what that is. But in the real, we have to call a spade a spade. This is what it is. You can make it into something it's not, but this is what it is.
No, and I definitely think that men who are you know, well off financially and marry women who aren't, which is, you know, pretty typical even today, even though women are coming up and making more money, men still tend to be more of the breadwinners, and I definitely think they need to protect themselves and have a prenup.
By the way, that's even true if you have a child with somebody. A man has no guarantee that woman will be faithful, even with a marital agreement. And on top of that, he can be forced to pay alimony in addition to child support.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that there are a lot of risks, but like a lot of things in life, you don't get the greater reward without the greater risk. And I just know that, you know, my husband and I are so happy together, and the few happily married couples that I know are more happy than any of my single friends. I have had some...
Yeah, but how many of them are the second time around?
I know, and I don't know, you know, if that's why we're better. He was never married before, and he's a little bit older than I am. But it's just one of those situations where I look at our life and I look at the lives of, like I said, there's only a couple of other couples that I know that are really happily married, and then I have a ton of single friends. And don't get me wrong, and we hang out with them because we don't have kids, so we travel all over, we go to concerts, we go out to nice dinners. I mean, we have a really nice life, but we have that companionship and we have that pact with each other. And I know that you say that you can get that without the marriage, and, you know, and maybe you don't need to actually do the legal marriage, but having that ceremony in front of all of your family and all of your friends.
You've done it twice.
I know.
And you're deluding yourself
I was
again.
really young the first time.
But you're deluding yourself again. I was really young the first time, too.
Well, this time we've been together for, we're celebrating our 4-year anniversary on
Ooh-wee. That sounds like forever to me.
I know, we're still new into it. Maybe I'll be calling back in 10 years.
You know, here in L.A., people talk about marriage like it's a sitcom.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you tell someone you're splitting up after 5 years, they say, oh, that's a pretty good run.
That's so sad.
You know, as if you have enough episodes to go into syndication. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Oh,
5 years, that's pretty good.
I don't know how to express, like, how that feeling. It's just we're so happy, at least right now. And
All I can tell you, dear, is I keep the same telephone number.
Uh-huh.
And women tell me, oh, I just want you to know I'm getting married. Women I've dated. And I know that 80% of them are going to call me again within the next 5 years.
Well, I hope I am still the exception to the rule.
I know you hope that, and I'm hoping that Santa Claus is coming to town.
You're so mean sometimes. But I love your show, and I totally, you know, I know that your concept isn't geared towards women, and, you know, we're not the ones that your show is meant for, but I really think that you give great advice as far as, you know, and I love that you said earlier in the show that marriage does help kids, and it is a benefit if you're going to have children. It benefits the children.
Well, men have to realize that they're putting the children's interests ahead of their own because there is a benefit for children, but not for men.
Yeah, no, I think you give great advice, and I think sometimes it's a little harsh towards the women, but it's usually 99% of the time it's true. And I just wanted to call in and tell you that you had inspired me to write that paper, and I did find a few minor benefits, but the risk could possibly outweigh those benefits, and the real benefit for the people that I know that are happily married. My in-laws are celebrating 50 years, and they're doing great. My sister-in-law and her husband are 26 years, and they're doing really well. So it's just like the people that I know that are in happy marriages have really great lives, and they have that partner that is there for them all the time. And it's just something I just don't think that in our society you get that feeling of that commitment when you're just living together. I mean, some people can, and maybe they're more...
But again, you use the operative phrase, getting that feeling. Yeah. This is all about getting a feeling. It isn't about reality.
Yeah, but my perception is my reality. And all I know is I love...
No, perception is not reality. Perception is perception.
Well, I know that I love my life, and I hope that I am as happy as my in-laws are, you know, when we're together that long.
You know,
I've had bumps in the road. I mean,
you had moments in your first marriage when you felt like this, too.
Yeah,
and you were telling everybody how happy you were.
Yeah, it was a little bit different.
And you had a feeling of security.
Yeah, definitely getting married older. I mean, not that much older, but I was 28 when I met my husband. And getting married, you know, at 30 was a lot different than getting married at 19.
Well, it is, but again, I wish you the best of luck, but the odds are against you.
I know, Tom. I'm gonna be that exception to the rule. I'm gonna call you back in 10 years.
Sure you will.
All right, Tom. Thank you.
Okay, take care. Appreciate the call. This is George on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hey, Tom. How are you?
Great.
Good, good. Look, Tom, the reason why I'm giving you a call is I just want to let you know that, believe it or not, my wife and I, we listen to you, and we are the biggest advocates. We tell all of our single friends, as well as our children, never to get married.
Yeah.
Especially in California. Because right now, my wife she's actually paying her loser ex-husband child support and alimony.
Oh, boy.
She's paying him. But
now, see, if all she did was have a baby with him, she wouldn't have to pay him any alimony.
Yeah, I agree. You're right. But you know what's so funny? We talk about that today, and we wake up. She goes, God, I should have never married that son of a bitch. If I just had kids with him, I could have kept half of everything. Now, I myself, I'm like you, Tom. I got married for similar reasons as you. I have parents who've been married for 60 years.
Yeah.
So, you know, of course, I grew up in that kind of household thinking, you know, we should all be married. But it's so funny. My wife and I, we've been able to stop 3 of our friends from actually getting married by explaining to them the differences and why it's not beneficial to get married, especially in the state of California, which is horrible. It's a no-fault state. You come in with money, you're down half the minute you get in there. You know, we tell them all the time, so we've stopped 3 of our friends from actually getting married.
Yeah, I mean, your wife can have sex with your best friend in your living room, sitting on the living room floor. But, you know, she can be riding them like a pony.
Well, it is an ugly image.
Right? Then you catch him. And then she says, all right, well, goodbye to you. Then later she calls you and tells you she's pregnant. Then later on, she tells you she had the baby, and you're the father. Of course, you're not the father. You do a DNA test, you find that you're not the father. But guess what? They say that since you were married at the time, you are presumed to be the father. So now you are paying your best friend, your former best friend, and your former wife, you're paying them child support.
Boy, that would suck. Thank God I'm fixed.
You'd also pay them vagina money.
Yep, that's true.
And that is how the law is set up now.
Yeah, you're right, Tom. I don't get the law, and I agree with you what you said earlier. We've actually fought in court. I sit back while my wife fights her current ex-husband in court. She told the judge straight out, make this loser bastard hold himself accountable. Let him turn in some papers, see what he's spending the money on for the child support. And you believe it or not, the judge actually agreed for a 3-month period to do that.
Because he's a man.
So just so you know, yeah, exactly. So just so you know, there's some things are changing. It really depends. I always encourage your listeners, if you're paying child support or alimony, just take it to court and fight it. And if you can make a compelling argument and you can prove that other guy or girl is a real loser, I'm telling you, put her through anything. Put her through a work evaluation. Make her do everything. Make it hard for her to earn that money every month. That's what we do for him. We drive him crazy, and we've actually been able to get his child support reduced over the last couple of years because we make his life hell on him.
Wow, sounds good to me. Scott on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hi, how you doing, Tom?
Great.
Well, I just wanted to talk about, I found out a little bit of something about divorce law firsthand. Fortunately, I was smart enough to hire a good divorce attorney when I got divorced, and he pointed out something to me in the paperwork. It started in, I guess it was 99 or 2000 that they started doing this in California, and it's called a Gavron agreement. And what the Gavron agreement does is it's checked in the divorce papers, even if it's a long-term marriage, it gives them half the time of the marriage to get their act together and become self-supporting.
Right, so if you're married 8 years, you pay 4 years of vagina money. But if you're married over 10 years, in many cases, you could be forced to pay forever or until she gets remarried, whichever comes first.
It depends on if you exercise it in court, because that's what I'm currently going through right now, is I have a 13-year-old daughter with my ex-wife, and I've managed to get sole legal custody of the child and forced her to pay me child support and forcing her to where she has to get job training and everything else to where she can become self-supporting. Before her, I was married to her for 12 years, so she has 6 years to get it together, and there's a termination date on the marital settlement agreement. So if you have a savvy lawyer, when you go into divorce court, you can get out of doing lifetime, because the judge has pretty much told her that at the end of the 6-year term that she had better be self-supporting or she's done.
By the same token, how much will you pay over that 6 years? How much per month?
It's $1,300 per month.
All right. Well, I'll figure it out for you right now. $1,300 a month.
Well, it's $15,600 a year.
$15,600 a year times 6. It's $93,600.
Absolutely. But now, right now,
was there any night of sex during that relationship that was worth $93,600?
Absolutely not, Tom. You know better than that.
Yeah.
But at the current point, I'm only giving her $747 a month, because since I ended up with sole legal custody of the child, I get to deduct child support straight off the top of that $1,300.
Right, but you're paying to support the kid too, so you're still paying it.
Oh, absolutely. But it's better than paying it for an entire lifetime.
No, well, no doubt about that. Jeez. Oh, man. These stories just kill me. Let us continue with Janet on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Janet.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
I was born and raised in Orange County and probably been listening to you for about 10 years, and I just relocated to Phoenix, so I'm happy to hear you here.
Me too.
I am a 32-year-old professional, single woman, no kids, and own my own condo, pay my own bills, have a hard time finding a decent man in this town, and I certainly haven't found anybody who makes more money than me, at least in the past year or so. And I got to tell you, in response to the call called in a while ago, saying that she's a married woman who goes out with single friends. I'm the single friend that gets to go out with the married friends. And going home at the end of one of those occasions is a pretty lonely thing for a single girl.
Why is that a problem for you?
I get to go home to an empty bed, Tom, and the friends get to go home.
Well, don't you date anybody? Don't you have anybody you date? You have any booty calls? I mean, don't you have anybody in your life like that?
Not a regular.
Why not?
I just haven't found anybody who's just willing and wanting to get into a long-term...
Well, why do you need them in a long-term commitment? That's my question. Why?
I don't know. I got to say that I've had some...
Well, maybe you need to think about that.
No, I know exactly why. I've had some great role models in my life. My parents, they did divorce, but my dad remarried, and he's been married for 18 years. My grandparents were married for 55 years.
Yeah, but your grandparents got married when Milton Berle was on TV, okay?
Right.
And times were different.
Times are different.
People don't stay married for 55 years anymore. They just don't.
And I'm not going to be married for 55 years if I don't get married someday soon. But
well, don't worry. It doesn't matter whether you do or you don't. It's highly unlikely.
The Tom Leykis Show.